So how long have you been on a vegan diet for?
I've been on a vegan diet on and off for about 4 and a bit years.
So you say you've been on and off, so what is the greatest inconvenience of being on the diet then?
Well, the problem is sometimes with my work I travel, so when I go to a small town in Spain or something like that, it's pretty difficult to get food that I can survive on, which is vegan. Well, sometimes it's okay, but sometimes I just think, oh, do you know what? I'll just be vegetarian. So then I go vegetarian.
So you convert between vegan and vegetarian?
Yes, but I try to, when I'm in Brighton, I try to be vegan.
And what is the main reason for living this lifestyle?
Well, I've been vegetarian since I was about 5 or 6, and that was, well, my parents told me it was because I was taken to a farm and told where sausages and bacon came from. And apparently I was disgusted, and they said, oh, okay, well, there's such a thing as a vegetarian, you could be a vegetarian. And so from that moment on, I kind of became vegetarian. But to be honest, I think there was another reason. I think also I was quite fussy. There was only certain things I would eat. A lot of the meat in the 1970s was disgusting. It was like spam and corned beef, and it was actually quite easy. Yeah.
So living as a vegan in Brighton, how was it like?
It's actually really easy for me, but I'm not a massive foodie, so I don't mind. But I went vegan 4 years ago, and there's plenty of restaurants. There's Idea, there's lots of health food shops. You get lots of different types of tofu and vegetarian, sort of sausages and other types of food, and it's really good. Yeah.
So over the years, have you noticed that more and more places have been opening up in Brighton? Vegans?
Have I been noticing more and more places? I'm going to say probably not, but what I have noticed is that on the menus they include vegan options much more frequently, and they cater for vegans, whereas before, you were lucky to get a vegetarian dish, and if you did, it was one, and maybe it wasn't one you liked. So nowadays it's, in Brighton, it's good.
So would you say from personal experience that Brighton has quite a vibrant vegan community?
Yeah, I think it has. And I've been to a meet-up vegan group on one occasion, and there are people who are quite militant about it. I'm not that militant about it, so I got scared off a little bit, But there's quite a lot of vegans, and I know that the Green Party, and we're the only place with a Green MP. A lot of the Green Party support a vegan diet for environmental reasons. So I think it's quite a popular thing, but I heard recently on the news that it got knocked off the post as the city in the top position for being the vegan city by Glasgow. So, and some people were disappointed by that because they thought, why, because it is a really good vegan place. But apparently, I can't even remember the names of the places, but 1 or 2 places had shut down. So it's growing, but it's growing within the mainstream, menus, I think.
I see. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got a question.
Oh, okay.
You said you were vegetarian because you went on a farm and then you got scared.
Yeah.
Right. So then what made you go vegan instead of vegetarian?
Oh yeah, good question. So the vegan thing, actually, is quite a long story. But I was going out with somebody who said that they were doing veganuary. So it wasn't something that actually came from me, I have to admit. And so I said, oh, okay, I'll do veganuary with you. So veganuary is where you go vegan for January. And he was closely involved in the Green Party, and some of his friends were going vegan for January. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I didn't know if it would last, and I thought, oh, how difficult is this going to be? Because I absolutely love cheese, I love milk, always have milk in tea, always cheese. Didn't like soya or any of that, but I tried it, and actually it wasn't so difficult. And the thing was for me that while I was trying out this vegan diet, I decided to look into the reasons for being vegan a bit more, and I watched, I think it's on Netflix, there's a film called Vegicate, and there's some other programmes. There's there's Carnage by Simon Anstell on BBC, which is still on there if you haven't seen it. And then there's lots of documentaries and lots of things you can read about the reasons for being vegan. And while his ex-boyfriend, it's a very brief relationship really, he then went back to being vegetarian. I couldn't after I discovered all that, because it just seemed so morally wrong, and that once I had the information I would have had to erase it from my memory, which I couldn't. So I thought, well, actually I don't need to eat meat to survive and be okay. I don't need to. The worst thing about it is it's a great inconvenience, and that's the thing I hate most. But actually, when I look at the facts, and also I feel it's unnecessary to treat animals in that way. It's not necessary, it's cruel, and personally this is what I feel. Not telling anyone ever what to do, because I feel when people get on their soapbox about what they do and everyone should do it, I find it a bit annoying. So I don't really want to be like that, but that's just a personal feeling about how I felt. And there's lots of arguments against it, you know, in nature, animals eat animals and so on. So, but for me, you know, we're able to think, we're sentient beings, we can make decisions, we can find out the information. But if you don't want to live a life of vegan inconvenience, then remain ignorant, because as soon as you start finding out the facts, it's very difficult to morally to continue your way of living once you're informed. I think a lot of people don't want to know, and it is disgusting, some of the farming industry practices. And you know, what's that quote? Something about if the abattoirs were glass instead of, you know, if you could see what was happening, perhaps more people would become vegan. I'm not saying it's healthier, I actually don't really know, but and I think yes, it's better for the environment, but for me, there's no reason to be cruel to animals. I would say that would be my biggest reason now. And if I eat an egg, I still think about all the little chicks that go down the incinerator because they're the wrong gender and things like that, and I just can't forget it. So once you see some images, you just, unless you've got a good way of forgetting, it can have quite an impact. Yeah.
So what you said that you don't try and convert people to veganism.
No.
But what do you think of people who do that, like very obnoxiously?
I don't like that kind of behaviour. I don't know. I see what they're trying to do. If you believe in something, you want to spread the word, you want to share it with people, but it's kind of like people telling you to be a Christian, or you know, everyone's got to choose their own way of life. It's not, nearly all my friends and family eat meat and dairy products, nearly all of them, and I've made absolutely zero impact on any of them, other than being a great inconvenience.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's got to come from yourself, it's got to come from whatever, you know. I've always naturally been that way inclined since I was about 5 or 6, so that's obviously just who I am. I'm just a little bit like that, and some people are, you know, in a different way, they're like something else. So, and I just find it irritating when people morally judge people, because we're all hypocrites and we're all damaging the planet and we're all doing stuff that's wrong and stuff that's right, and we're a complex mix of everything. And yeah, I'm not really sure that I can say, you know, do you know how that cow suffered when you know, while you're eating a burger or something? I think it's obnoxious behaviour. I don't like it.
So as you said, that we don't need to eat meat to survive necessarily. We are omnivores, therefore we are able to completely remove from our diet and live.
Yeah.
Do you think more people would convert to veganism if they knew?
What, that we don't need it?
We don't need it at all, yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe they would, and also the thing is, I think they'd find it inconvenient. And people like the food that they were brought up with as children normally, and it's quite difficult, because if you love bacon, which I never really did, then that's quite hard. That's quite hard for people to give up, and they might not want to, and it's an individual choice, you know. I've forgotten what your question was? Isn't that awful? Say it again.
I forgot it as well.
It's fine. We got enough there, I think. Yeah. I think
Okay.
I was just asking if people knew more about it, would they be more inclined to? But yeah.
I think they would be more inclined. I have met people who watched, for example, Carnage by Simon Ansell, and the next day they've given up milk for a day. For example, my
Yeah.
mum and dad, they're very progressive and they're quite open-minded, and they watched something and they decided to be vegans, but it kind of slipped after a week. It doesn't stick. So, you know, sometimes you hear something, you think, oh, that's awful, I'm going to blah, 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 and it kind of fades from your memory a little bit. I don't know why it stuck with me. I'm not really sure. Probably because I never really liked meat that much anyway, and I don't like the idea of using animals. I'm not sure actually why it stuck, and I'm not sure. Just did.
So you would say that the reason why people don't continue the diet is because of the inconvenience they face?
I think it is inconvenient. I think, you know, it's comfort. It's easy, you know, it's available. Some places outside Brighton, I imagine it's really difficult. You know, you can go and get some cheddar cheese, but can you actually get some vegan cheese to have a cheese sandwich? And, you know, that's familiar food. But it's becoming more popular, and I've got a few really good vegan cookbooks. And, you know, if you Google vegan food, vegan anything, vegan lasagna or spaghetti bolognese, there's always a lovely vegan version. I mean, some of them are not lovely. You might have to try a few to find one that you actually like. But yeah, I think it's difficult for people to make that big change. If all your family eat meat and dairy products, you're going to be a big inconvenience, and you might have to have a few battles even.